This is DX Central Live. This is DX Central Live.
Stand by for a transmission from DX Central. This broadcast is not a test. To confirm reception, please tune your radio to any AM or FM frequency and report your observations during this transmission. Again, this is not a test. Stand by for a transmission from DX Central. This broadcast is not a test. To confirm reception, please tune your radio to any AM or FM frequency and report your observations during this transmission. Again, this is not a test.
DX Central Live is brought to you in part by
Since 1933, the National Radio Club has been serving AMDXers while providing some of the most in-depth information in the hobby. From the annual NRC AM log, a must-have reference for domestic station information, to antenna design reference manuals, and of course, the DX News Member Bulletin, which is filled with station information updates, domestic and international loggings, and a whole lot more. Become a member today. For more information, log on to nationalradioclub.org. That's nationalradioclub.org. While the HF bands can be filled with entertaining and intriguing transmissions, how do you know when and where to look? Let Teague Publishing's Global Radio Guide lead the way. In addition to its exhaustive list of time and frequency for international broadcasters, radio hobby icon Gail Van Horn brings you equipment reviews, an SDR buyer's guide, feature articles, and more. Pick up your copy today. Visit teaguepublishing.com for more information. That's teaguepublishing.com. From the pages of its DX Monitor Member Bulletin, members of the International Radio Club of America share their domestic and international AMDX loggings. In its Mexican log, a wealth of information can be found of stations from south of the border. Technical guides, sunrise, sunset maps, and more make the IRCA a must-join for any AMDXer. For more information, log on to ircaonline.org. That's ircaonline.org.
Through crashes of static in quiet hours, we listen. In languages we can scarcely understand, and of places we have only visited in our dreams, we listen. Incessantly, we perfect our array of aerials, receivers, and resources. We refine our skills and our techniques so that we might listen. We are DX Central, and we're all about radio. Visit us at dxcentralonline.com or check us out on YouTube. Search DX Central.
Keep up with DX Central. Follow us on Twitter at DX Central.
From the Gulf South
To your corner of the world.
this is DX Central Live.
Now here's your host, Lloyd Van Horn.
All right, it's DX Central Live from the North Shore Studios here in Mandeville, Louisiana. Good Friday evening, my friends. Welcome to another night of great DX. I hope you've had a good week of it. We've been sitting on some pretty cool frequencies. Another one that kind of surprised me a little bit. Didn't expect to see some of the stuff coming in that came in here. And it kind of kept going. Just by the time I was like, okay, clearly I've got everything I'm going to get. There was more. So we're going to talk about that this week. Tonight, we're going to talk about the last week of DX on AM. And good call, Justin. That's actually a really good call. Especially in light of recent events, right? From this week. One of the things that were going on with cell phone networks and whatnot. We got a new batch of frequencies to discuss for this coming week, for this new week here of the Medium Wave Frequency Challenge. So we'll talk about that, and I've been teasing it in the Slack channel for those of you who've been joining us there and chatting about what we're hearing and stuff. I'll tell you guys the same thing. If you enjoy chasing Latin American DX, this is your week. Okay? I went back through my logbook and I was counting up my logs that I have on our new frequencies that we're about to launch here in the next hour. And I counted no less than 7 countries that I think are easily achievable for the vast majority. And there are going to be some exceptions, especially West Coast. You guys might have a little bit tougher at it, some of it. But for the vast majority, Midwest, Central, East Coast of the United States, and in our friends abroad as well, I think a vast majority of you, there's 7 countries that I think of in this range that you should be able to at least have in your reach. And that's not including the United States, Mexico, and Canada. So it's going to be an interesting week coming up here. So we're going to talk about those new frequencies. Of course, you got your shout outs to get to. what you've been hearing this week. So make sure we'll drop that shout out link here in the the form here in the chat. So there you go. Got the shout out form there in the chat for you guys to submit your things you've been hearing on AM and FMDX. I know some of you are Boot Crew North folks up in Arkansas. We're hearing some FM Tropo this week. We had a touch, just a little itty bit of Tropo this week. And so we'll talk about what we heard there. We do our own catches from the last week. And so we're going to talk about your shout outs, new countries, new stations, new states from the country of Mexico, if you're a new Mexican state, new Canadian provinces, new stations from Louisiana, Wisconsin. We got all kinds of stuff on that shout out form you can put in there. So if you've done something cool in the last week on AM or FMDX, we want to know about it. And even if it wasn't, if it was something just cool, like you got some new gear, maybe you got, I know Sean was doing a big amateur radio contest this last week. The ARRL international contest, the Morse code portion, the phone version, the voice version is coming up next week. And we're probably going to be doing that one here at DX Central. And that means we're probably going to be doing a live stream for that, more than likely. So we'll talk about what Sean did on the big contest this last week. And yeah, just a lot of good DX to get to. Before we get into the actual live DX here in just a few moments, just a couple of things that we kind of had going on here this week. Been playing around a little bit with some of our gear and some of the setups and everything. You guys know I have 3 Superloops here at the house right now. We have a northwest southeast antenna that's pointing right now at the southeast side, about 125 degrees. That's about 20 by 97 feet. That's going to the Perseus. We also have another one that's going to the Perseus right now. I kind of play with these. Sometimes I'll put one on the Perseus and I'll swap it around. But the one that's on there now to go with the northwest southeast antenna is what I call the front yard Superloop. My neighbors love it. I actually heard one of the neighbors, this is a new neighbor kid that I didn't know, it was from further down the street, I think, was over visiting my next door neighbors, I think last week, and they were out running around having some fun or whatever, and one of the newer neighbor kids that doesn't really know the lay of the land over here yet was running and came across one area where I had one of my Superloop bottom base wires going across the yard, got there and kind of stopped like this and was like, and then looked at me and like, what's that? And then the neighbor kid from next door was like, oh, that's Mr. Lloyd's wire. Don't touch it. It's got electricity. And I was like, that's my man. There you go. So that's part of the front yard setup that we have. But yeah, we have the front yard Superloop. That is right now, it is 340 degrees, 160. So it's pointing 160 right now for looking down south. And that's a 12 by 56. So that's going to the Perseus on the AirSpy, HF Plus Discovery. We've got another Superloop. It is a 22 by 73, 23 by 73, somewhere in there. 73 feet long, and it is pointing at 15 degrees and 195 degrees. Right now it's 195 because we're looking south. And so been playing with those a little bit and kind of bouncing those around a little bit. And the other one that I've been messing around with my mini whip, my PA0 RDT mini whip. And so I wanted to try out the 15 degree antenna with the mini whip. It's been through I have a quantum phaser. And so I've been working with that, but in some of the chat, we've been talking about, someone brought up the RSP Duo. So I wanted to try that out and see how that would work on AM. I know how it does on the FM side with the diversity function. For those of you who are newer to it, RSP Duo is an SDR, and it has 2 independent receivers, 2 independent antenna connections, right? So other ones like the RSPDX or some of the other SDRs, they may have multiple internet antenna connections, but you change back and forth between the two. Like, so I'm sitting on, let's say 890, and I go from antenna 1 to antenna 2, like on a traditional desktop radio that has multiple antenna inputs. I can just bounce back and forth between the two. RSP Duo is different. It is 2 completely independent receivers, and the antenna input for one goes to one of those receivers and the other one goes to the other receiver. So you can be receiving 2 completely different frequencies and recording 2 different frequencies at the exact same time. Where that comes into play for the RSP Duo is that it has what's called diversity, which is basically phasing. And so there's functionality within the SDR Play software, the SDR Connect, you can actually change the amplitude and phase differences between the two antennas. So you can try to use that to get rid of interference and noise or signals that you don't want to hear from like radio stations you're trying to get rid of. And I've tested this out with FM and it works pretty good. We know we here in the Gulf South get some good tropo from the Gulf of Mexico. So if we have an opening that's got, a little bit of Texas, a little bit of Florida, and I got one station in Texas, but I really would like to see the station over here in Florida, I can use that phasing to get rid of that station and see what's underneath. So anyway, a little backstory for those who weren't familiar. So I wanted to try that now with AMDX, because that was originally what I wanted to do before, was to do that with AMDX. So I plugged in my my backyard Superloop, the 73 footer, and the PA0 RDT mini whip. Now, already I should have known there would be a problem because of the differences in the amount of gain between these two antennas. One has 23 dB of gain. The other one's nowhere near that. It's sitting about 45 feet up in the air, so it's got some good gain on it, but it's nowhere near 23 dB of gain. And gain is the amount of that it boosts the signals coming in. So that's already going to be difficult to phase between those two antennas anyway, but I thought I'd give it a shot. So what happened? It had some overload. Now, I have a lot of radio stations here in the area, here in Mandeville, from down in New Orleans. It's 20 some odd miles, 30 some odd miles between me and New Orleans, but there's nothing between us but a big saltwater lake. So I tried that out. It was just overload city, so I wasn't really able to do any good testing on it. I'm going to keep trying it. Talking with Jacob from Minnesota, talking about maybe a step attenuator or something I can do to kind of maybe in line before it gets into the SDR, try to bring that signal down so it can prevent some overloading. I don't know. We'll give it a shot. We'll keep testing it. So I hope to have that live tonight. Not going to have that tonight, but just thought I would kind of talk through. So if you're looking at an RSP duo and you do live in an area that has a lot of strong AM and FM radio signals and you're wanting to do AMDX, you might want to kind of pause for a second on that one. So, all right, let's get to some Live DX. Of course, this hour of Live DX is brought to you by the National Radio Club, nationalradioclub.org, and we're already up on it, my friends. It's top of the hour time frame, so that means we are looking for IDs and top of the hour identifications from some of these stations. We're sitting on our Perseus right now on that southeast antenna. Let's go.
Agora Maricela Herrera, Mari Carmen Morera, Michael Chávez, Ocho, Daniel González, Eladio Piñera. Musicalización y sonidos Lucía Marín. Efectos Eirelis Díaz. Grabación Evelyn Marrero. Sala de transmisiones Ramírez de Fer Miranda. Asistencia a programas Reinier Chala. Escribe Sadem Mufau. Asesora Raquel Rosales. Dirección Aida Lao. Luis Ángel Alarcón Santana, quien les habla, les invita a escuchar de lunes a viernes a la misma hora en 9 minutos.
Dedicada a Isabel Monal, filósofa, investigadora, Premio Nacional de Ciencias Sociales y Humanísticas,
y a Francisco López Sacha, destacado escritor y profesor de arte.
y con Brasil como país invitado de honor.
Del 15 al 25 de febrero, en la Fortaleza San Carlos de la Cabaña y otras instituciones culturales,
Edición 32 de la Feria Internacional del Libro de La Habana.
el libro lo lees, lo vives.
Porque leer es construir identidad.
Oh, man. They faked me out. They got me. They faked me out. I heard the Radio Nacional, and then I heard a couple minutes later to Brazil. I knew it wasn't in Portuguese, so I didn't think it was actually Brazil, but it was something kind of close. And then it was Progressive. They faked me. They got me on that one. So that was that's the main one we've been here. We did have the ID from WLS underneath there out of Chicago. So those are the two main ones that have been here on 890 this week. A couple of others, but Progresso and WLS have been the main ones. So Progresso, they got me. They got me on that one. And usually it's the music. Usually they play like U.S. oldies or some classic rock. Or every once in a while you'll hear like AC/DC, and then you'll hear like Willie Colon and the Fania All-Stars, and then they'll play some more like Cuban salsa music, and then all of a sudden the Beatles show up, and you're like, wait a minute, what? And so you forget that you're listening to Cuba, and then you're thinking, I got a new station. No, it's not. It's Progresso. Let's see what we caught here on 880 and see if anything good was coming in. Okay, I'm pretty sure there is WCBS in there, somewhere in there, low. The main one that we were hearing there, they just ID'd as WXBN in Sweetwater, Florida. That's Miami's BIN, Black Information Network. They just ID'd, and there is another Spanish station in there, and it could be KGOZ in Conroe. That's the main Spanish station I've been hearing this week, but I don't think it's them because the format is a little different. But I also don't think it's Cuba's Progresso because we just heard them with their Onda de la Alegría song that they like to play. Let's just take a peek here and see if maybe that might have come in here anywhere as we go through. If we hear that song flare up, because that's the one frequency I didn't log a Cuban on. Yeah, I don't think that Progresso is in there right now, because if we go back to 890, this is one of those little techniques that you can use if you have a station like a lot of the Cubans, Rouleau, Rebeldi, Progresso, where they have multiple different frequencies with the same national network kind of spaced out. You can use what's called a parallel. Parallel is an old technique from the shortwave days even, where you would say, let's say you have Australia, and Australia is broadcasting on 5 different frequencies. Well, you can go find them on one, and then you can bounce back and forth between that one that you hear them on and the other 3 or whatever, to see if you're hearing the same signal on those other frequencies. So it's an old technique from the old days of DX. You'd have an A-B switch on your radio that you would sit there and push, go back and forth. Same kind of concept here. We're going to go back to 890 and see what was Progresso doing here on 890 when we were hearing this. What time did it start?
Edición 32 de la Feria Internacional del Libro de La Habana.
El libro lo lees, lo vives.
Porque leer es construir identidad.
So it was right at the top of the hour here when that song started up. We didn't hear that start on 880, so I don't think we have Progresso there on 880. But we did hear the Miami BIN station there, and I believe then there was another news station there that I think was probably WCBS. We also heard KRVN and some others this week on 860, 870. Of course, I'm not even going to spend any time on this one because you all know what this is here in New Orleans.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Steve Geller, Jeff Nowak, Cullen Steele saying...
WSB. I'm sorry, WWL, I don't know where my brain just went. It's 870 WWL here in New Orleans. That's the station that was actually overloading me when I was trying to do my testing this week on the RSP Duo. So there you go. This has been the frequency for me this week. Unbelievable amount of DX. I started the week with, I think, 5 stations on 860, and now I'm at 9, I think, on 860. So I've heard 3 or 4 more. It's been a really good frequency for me this week. Let's see what we call it.
Son las 7 de la tarde, con 58 minutos. Música con emociones auditivas para recordar. 860 AM.
Somos SQCS Radio.
Son las 7 de la tarde, con 59 minutos. Música para viajar sin cita. Radio Chetumal, 860.
All right, so that is Radio Chetumal. They're in Chetumal, Quintana Roo, Mexico, right here at the base of the Yucatan Peninsula, just north of Belize. So that is the station that we heard there. That was one that popped up late in the week. And then early this morning during a sunrise period, I actually was able to snag the last of the 3 main Mexican stations that you have here on the screen. You have Chetumal, you've got XEUN here, and then you've got Monterey with XENL. So finally got XENL this morning. Just a great week on 860. So that was their Eastern time zone, Chetumal is. So a little pro tip for those folks looking on 860 to finish maybe it up a little bit. Go back and look at your recordings from, if you have any, or if you do the mornings, around 1100 UTC. So that is 6 o'clock a.m. Eastern time, 5 a.m. Central time. They do their national anthem down there from Mexico. They're in Chetumal. At their local 6 o'clock, which is, like I said, it's 1100 UTC. The other stations here, XEUN, XENL, it's an hour later at their local 6 o'clock Central Time. The other thing with Chetumal is that after they complete the regular Mexican national anthem that we all know and love, they also do the state anthem of Quintana Roo. And I've got a sample of that I can play here in a little bit. I'll let you guys hear it. That is very, very unique and stands out a lot. So if you're looking for Quintana Roo, you want to get that Mexican state in, or you just want another Mexican station in your logbook that you don't have, that's a great way to get them in there. And then finally 850, a lot of KOA, a lot of WXJC this week. Did have XECPAF pop up for me in Mexico down here, Radio Universidad for a new Mexican state, which we'll play that a little bit later on during our shout outs. Osway, that's my neighborhood, homie. Yeah, there's a lot there. I don't hear anything really distinct here off the top of the hour piece. We did get Radio Reload, Morse code RRs in there on 850. So there we go. Let me go back. Some of you guys are talking about hearing WWL here. Let me go back to 870, and here's what the top of the hour sequence for them.
Treating them like subhuman. Well, it's amazing when you don't expect all of a sudden they're going to turn around and respond right back.
Well, because that's right. Everyone assumes they're not going to, and then they do, and it's like, oh, okay, now stand on your business here. What are you doing anyway?
That's a wrap on today's Sports Talk. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Steve Geller, Jeff Nowak, Cullen Steele saying goodnight.
Who dat? Go Saints.
Talk to you later.
The
news, talk, sports powerhouse. WWL New Orleans, WWL FM and HD1 Kenner New Orleans. Always live on the free Odyssey app.
This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by...
Let's get past CBS
Make sure
News.
embryos line. In fact,
We'll get you to the local content here.
And was a
sanction. It's NASDAQ.
firm, A+ rated. Testimonial from an actual client.
Scattered cloud sticker freezing.
Good
Here's
evening.
our
I'm
weather.
Ian Ozan on your official weather station, WWL.
Scattered clouds stick around tonight. We trend mostly dry with maybe a stray shower tonight. It's going to be breezy the rest of your Thursday with temperatures in the 60s through tomorrow morning. Friday starts with mostly cloudy skies, but then will turn mostly sunny as the day progresses. It's going to be breezy and less humid on Friday with high temperatures warming to the lower 70s.
WWL TV meteorologist Alexa Trischler has a full look at the forecast coming up in just a moment. A man who was shot on the Crescent City Connection this afternoon is still alive, despite earlier reports that he had died. NOPD officials say the victim, a 23-year-old black man, is in grave condition in a local hospital. The Crescent City Connection was closed for more than 3 hours while police investigated the shooting. Investigators say they've learned that the shooting happened just past the Tchoupitoulas Street exit ramp, but they still don't know what exactly happened. In the state legislature, the Louisiana Senate approves a bill allowing concealed carry without a permit.
All right, so there we go. That's the some of the sequence there for WWL. This top of the hour sequence that we just had. All right, so that's what we've had here so far. I mean, we've had a little bit more kind of deeper dives into some of the frequencies this week, but for the most part, what you just heard, that's been the primary stuff that we've been hearing this week. 860 XEUN was kind of the dominant there, but besides Chet them all. But other than that, pretty much everything you just heard. There's WXJC and KOA on 850. They were surprisingly hard to get rid of this week down here. Usually KOA doesn't come in as strong as they do. It's actually been a pretty crummy week for conditions below the lower 48. Even into Mexico, Cuba even was just not really all that prevalent. A lot of the Cuban outlets that I normally hear weren't there. Wasn't hearing them. Was hearing a lot of stuff up north. Even when I moved things to the south side of the antenna, hearing a lot of stuff up north. But yeah, just not a great week for stuff down south. Did hear the BIN Miami station that was a new one for me this week, but that was really the most exotic that it really got until last day or so. Finally started seeing some stations out of Mexico opening up a little bit. I'm hopeful that that's going to continue as we move into this next week, because like I said earlier, Latin American aficionados, this is going to be our week. This is probably my favorite, one of my favorite batches of frequencies. There's a couple others that kind of go around this one, but this is one of my favorite batches of frequencies, period, on the AM band. We're about to do this next week. I cannot wait. So we're going to get into more about that here in just a few moments. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to get to your shout outs. We're going to talk about this next batch of frequencies. We're going to talk about some FMDX I got to do this week and a whole lot more. So don't go anywhere. More DX Central Live is coming right after this.
DX Central, because we're all about radio. Visit us at dxcentralonline.com or check us out on YouTube. Search DX Central. DX Central Live is brought to you in part by...
Since 1933, the National Radio Club has been serving AMDXers while providing some of the most in-depth information in the hobby. From the annual NRC AM log, a must-have reference for domestic station information, to antenna design reference manuals, and of course, the DX News Member Bulletin, which is filled with station information updates, domestic and international loggings, and a whole lot more. Become a member today. For more information, log on to nationalradioclub.org. That's nationalradioclub.org. While the HF bands can be filled with entertaining and intriguing transmissions, how do you know when and where to look? Let Teague Publishing's Global Radio Guide lead the way. In addition to its exhaustive list of time and frequency for international broadcasters, radio hobby icon Gail Van Horn brings you equipment reviews, an SDR buyer's guide, feature articles, and more. Pick up your copy today. Visit teaguepublishing.com for more information. That's teaguepublishing.com. From the pages of its DX Monitor Member Bulletin, members of the International Radio Club of America share their domestic and international AMDX loggings. In its Mexican log, a wealth of information can be found of stations from south of the border. technical guides, sunrise, sunset maps, and more make the IRCA a must-join for any AMDXer. For more information, log on to ircaonline.org. That's ircaonline.org.
Through crashes of static in quiet hours, we listen. In languages we can scarcely understand, and of places we have only visited in our dreams, we listen. Incessantly, we perfect our array of aerials, receivers, and resources. We refine our skills and our techniques so that we might listen. We are DX Central, and we're all about radio. Visit us at dxcentralonline.com or check us out on YouTube. Search DX Central.
Keep up with DX Central. Follow us on Twitter at DX Central.
From the DX Central North Shore Studios, this is DXC Live. Now here's your host, Lloyd Van Horn.
It's DX Central Live from the North Shore Studios here in Mandeville, Louisiana. And we are wrapping up another week of the medium wave frequency challenge. We've been sitting 850 to 891. It's been a fun week. Let's take a look really quick at the results from this week so far. Obviously, we still have a few minutes left. There's up until the top of the hour to get your logs in, but we can take a look here and see what has been heard. 452 stations logged. My goodness. You guys are crushing it. 452 stations where you have big clear channel, big gun dominant stations that sit in the pocket and don't move, right? And you guys still got 452 stations. Crazy. 6 countries heard this week. 37 states. Again, lots of big gun stations sitting there. 37 states. Of course, Barry, they're in Crossville, just absolutely crushing it, as always, with 46 logs. But look at this. Dennis. Number 2 spot, my friend. 39 logs. I told you last week, you've been crushing it. I remember, I was thinking about this the other day. I remember, well, let's say it was a year or two ago, we were doing a graveyard challenge. And you were struggling. You were like, I just having a hard time with the graveyarders and pulling stuff out. And you just kept with it. You just kept with it, and you've gotten so good at this, and you're doing great with those the decaz antenna that you got, and the W6LVP loop, and you're just sticking with it and honing those skills and refining it and getting better and getting better and getting better. So, man, kudos to you. 39 stations logged this week. That is amazing. Bravo, my friend. You know what? You get a official horn of victory, man. You get that sucker, because that's just fantastic. Of course, Bill, our season 1 champion from season 1 of the Medium Wave Frequency Challenge, with 38 right there. Jacob up in Minnesota, man. Jacob, you've also been another person that has just really just been amazing. I know you're a seasoned DXer, so I'm not surprised, but you've just been getting such really good stuff up there, and you're a wealth of information, so I appreciate you, man. 37 logs last week. Fantastic. David Pete up in Maine with 34, including a transatlantic entry this week from Spain. Bravo, my friend. Awesome job. Mesa Mike, the man who brings us the information on his website about the U.S. stations that I use in my logbook to help me calculate mileage and bearing and percentage of states heard, sitting there with 27 stations this last week. That guy, 26. Good job, Van Horn. Gregory, you got 26 in there this week. Good job, my friend. Stephanie down in the Hacienda in the Palm Desert, 20 stations logged, along with Neil Wolfish in Ontario. Our friend Justin, UB Studios, who does his live stream, he's up there with 19 this week. Bart in Tennessee with 19 as well. So, man, there's a Mexico Mike. We got Mesa Mike. We got Mexico Mike. Mexico Mike with 15 this week. And, yeah, you guys, there's Christos with 15 as well. So, yeah, you guys are just crushing it, man. An amazing, amazing week of DX from all of you. Good job. Love seeing the stuff coming in. And let's dive a little bit deeper into what has been coming in. So, WWL, I was not surprised by this one. Most everybody heard that one because it's kind of a coast-to-coast station with 22 logs this week. Out of 27 DXers, all but 5 were pulling in WWL this week. 102 unique stations heard. 860, no surprise here, the top frequency of the week with 101 stations logged. Actually, no, 850 was number one with 105. So right in there. I knew it'd be one of the two. So big amount of logs on both of those frequencies coming in. Barry also leading the state count with 24 states this week. Half the country heard this week by Barry on just these 4 frequencies. So, I mean, guys, I'm telling you, if you stick with it and you get in there and you just record the part of the band or whatever it is you're chasing after, and just be methodical in your approach and really listen. Barry is a fantastic DXer. Why? Because he's very good at listening. He can pull out really great details out of the static. I know a lot of us can, but that's something that I'm continuing to try to work on. My ears aren't as good as they used to be. Thanks a lot, music and loud stuff and headphones and whatnot and things like that. Concerts. But Barry is really, really good at pulling out details and fine details. He hears things deep in the static, and that's what helps him get these large number of logs and really cool exotic logs into his logbook. And then Jacob is right there with 20 as well, so right behind him on that. New York was our top state of the week with 28 stations logged from the state of New York. Countries, look at Mesa Mike with 5 countries thanks to hearing Argentina this week. So he got the US and Cuba and Canada and Mexico, and he pulled in Argentina, man. That's what I'm talking about. And I can't remember, I don't think that was a new for you, right, Mike? I don't think that was new. I think you'd heard Argentina before, so it's not going to count for my challenge to somebody to get Argentina for the first time. But I do know that you getting Argentina, yes, sir. And then for the mileage, I have to go back and double check. I want to double check the numbers, and I've been doing some research on this in the DX Central Medium Wave Frequency Challenge archives. It's just a couple spreadsheets. I do believe that this number right here from Jacob of Argentina is a brand new mileage record for the Medium Wave Frequency Challenge from all 3 seasons so far. I'm pretty sure that is a brand new mileage record. I think the last old record was 5,600 miles. If I remember, I have a couple more spreadsheets I need to double check, but I think the old one was 5,600 miles. It was Japan from John Johnson in Arizona, I think was our record holder. So this would eclipse that. So Jacob, man, dude, that's freaking awesome. Almost 6,000 miles from Minnesota to Argentina. That's a crazy amount of real estate to cover. I don't care if it's a light speed radio wave or not. That's a lot of real estate to cover. RSP Duo, RSP DX, the SDR Play suite was well used this week, as was the Perseus. You guys are crushing it with the DCASs, but look at the W6 LVP loop with the 71 as well. So 2 things I'm very, very proud of here at DX Central. How many people we've turned on to the W6 LVP loop and have gotten such great results using that, and the number of people that we've turned on to the terminated Delta loop, the terminated loops in general, that have now gone on to get amazing DX as well. 2 things I'm extremely proud of here at DX Central is just what a difference that has made for folks in their DX. So love to see you guys out there using those. All right, so that's this week. There may be some more stuff that comes in. Sometimes Jeff gets his right there at the end. He sandbags them a little bit. Sometimes we'll see if he gets any of those in there. But yeah, that's where we are this week with a lot of really great logs, 452 as of right now. So kudos to all of you guys. What a great week we've had here doing DX from 850 to 891. All right. So let's speaking of shout outs, while we're in the giving mood, we want to do a quick round of official shout outs. These are submitted by you, our DXers. And so you can get that in through the shout out submission form and let us know what you've been hearing in the last week. And then we'll give you a Horn of Victory and some other kudos as well. Little fun things that we do here at DX Central and DX Central Live. Let's start with our friend Stephanie down in Palm Desert, down at the Radio Hacienda. 6 new logs this week from 4 different countries. And this is from Southern California, guys. We have KPAM, Troutdale, Oregon. That's the number 19 from the state of Oregon for Stephanie on 860. 870 KFLD, Pasco, Washington, 250 watts, 873 miles. That's her 20th state of Washington log that she has. 870 XETAR, and she, I know it's Chihuahua, right? I had a friend in school who used to call it Chihuahua. In Chihuahua, Mexico. That's Mexican station number 53 for Stephanie. CKLQ in Brandon, Manitoba, 1,300 miles. That's the second Manitoba station there on 880 for Stephanie. And 890 Radio Progreso in Cuba, 2,401 miles. That's the 9th Cuban that she's logged from the Southern California desert, y'all. See, it can be done. It can absolutely be done. And the crown jewel for her this week, 1,531 miles, the northernmost latitude station that she has logged so far. British Columbia number 6 was CJDC in Dawson's Creek. She didn't want to wait for Dawson's Creek to get in her logbook. She got it. I told you I was going to do it again this week. CJDC. Good job, Stephanie. So let's get you some logs going on here. Oh, there we go. Let's take a look now at our next batch. This is coming from our friend John in Delaware. Hope you're feeling better, John. I know you had you were under the weather last week. Hopefully you're feeling better and got some good DX. Looks like 1560 WFSP in Kingwood, West Virginia. Lots of ads and news for Preston County, West Virginia, and an ID. That's log number 1,253. And let's do real quick here our last one for this round, and then we'll get to our next round. Sean, I got you queued up next after this one for the first one of the next round, but let's finish this first round out with our friend Barry. I'm telling you guys, Barry, he uses those ears to the fullest extent. What did he do this week? Oh, you know, a little 1179 kilohertz Romanian, a little 1413 Moldova, you know. Yeah, just some new countries in there. So we're going to stamp the passport for our friend Barry Bankston. There you go. We found that blank page. We got that sucker stamped. And I tell you, that 1413, a lot of you may want to take a look. I had a very, very strong carrier from them this week on my Northwest wire even. I had a very, very strong carrier and maybe a few seconds of audio. Nothing that was discernible enough for me to pull out. But I'm down here in the Gulf South of Louisiana. If you're up north of me, like the Boot Crew North folks in Arkansas, our friends up in Minnesota, anybody kind of east of me here, you definitely should be looking over your morning logs and seeing if you have anything from the country of Moldova on 1413. Barry, I don't remember the time frame, what UTC time it was that we were both looking at that, but I had a nice, big, huge trace down my waterfall in the red, and it was on 1413, and I'm pretty sure it was them. I didn't put it in the logbook, but we're going to continue to try to work on that, but you may want to give that a shot and see if you might be able to pull them in. You're looking for some audio in there, and they do speak, I think it's Russian, right, Barry, that they do there on that station? It's a Russian station there in Moldova. So yeah, you may want to give that a shot, rather. Take a look at it and see if maybe you might have them, because hey, anytime you get a new country or something overseas outside of the U.S. borders from our USDXers, that's huge. That's a huge thing. So, all right. Speaking of huge outside of the border week, we got some frequencies coming up here for our next batch of the EMA Frequency Challenge. We'll be talking about that here in just a little bit, but real quick, let's get to some more DX. You want to? The last couple weeks, I've been doing a lot of talking, and I feel like I haven't really been doing a whole lot of DX. I don't want to do that. Let's do some more.
The rest of the year, no matter what.
You have to. It's your guy.
And this time, let's switch it up. Instead of the Perseus.
If you're willing to...
Shh. Let's go to the AirSpy HF Plus Discovery. And our copy of SDR Sharp that we have here, this is version 1920. This is a release candidate. And that's important for me to point out here because this one has an enhanced version of AirSpy's code channel canceller. Why is that a big deal? Why is that important? We talked about it last couple of weeks. If you've had any experience using SDR Sharp in the past, you know the code channel canceller is really awesome when you could get it to work. But it was a little finicky, and some folks had better success than others, and it was kind of inconsistent in what you would see in it. When it worked, it was amazing, but it was just getting it to work wasn't always super easy or intuitive. That's no longer the case. Even I have figured this out with relative amount of ease, and it takes me some time to kind of grasp new technology sometimes, or new kind of concepts or processes. So I'm going to, once again, I know I've done this a couple of weeks here now. I'm going to demonstrate for you again this clear channel canceller and just let you see what's there, how it works here in SDR Sharp. I'm doing this for one reason, and that is because I want to show you all the power of what a inexpensive SDR can do for you. Now, the code channel canceller is a function of SDR Sharp. It's the software, right? The little device that you buy, the AirSpy HF Plus Discovery, that's not the code channel canceller. That's a whole separate thing. You can use that little SDR AirSpy with any number of different pieces of software that don't have the code channel canceller, and you'll still get great results. But with this SDR Sharp, which is AirSpy software, you do get the code channel canceller, and it gets you some amazing results, especially on the frequencies like we've had this week, where you have clear channel stations and you want to see what's underneath them, get rid of those big gun stations. You want to get rid of those, clear them out of the way so you can see what's underneath. This code channel canceller is right up your alley. It's like phasing, right? It's basically very similar to phasing, maybe not technically speaking, but it is very similar. And kind of works kind of the same basic principle of I want to get rid of the station and see what's underneath it. So the code channel cancel lets me do that. So we're sitting here on 890 as an example right now, and I'm on my 160 degree, actually no, my 195 degree Superloop, sorry. Let's just see what we have sitting on this frequency.
No, when you breathe well, you live better.
No radio in your kitchen? Did you know the Big 89 has an app? Find it in the Apple App Store.
So we've got WLS just kind of dominating the frequency, but I'd like to get rid of them and see what's underneath. Let's give it a shot.
AM app. Take us everywhere you go. WL.
Now, sometimes there's nothing underneath there. Sometimes there is. I should have a Cuban popping up in here. Barry says New Freaks 570 to 610. I don't know. That's Cuba. That's Cuba there underneath. So what did I do just now? How did I get to that result? So a couple things that I did. One, you're gonna have to make sure you're in this DSB, this dual sideband. This is the main mode that you will want to use this code channel canceller with. Then you go up here and you turn it on. There's a little hamburger here where you can actually get to the code channel canceller tile here. And so you turn it on, and you want to make sure a couple of things. You want to make sure that you have this lock carrier checked over here under your radio tile. You want to make sure you have your micro tuner up and enabled right here. So you want to turn that on. And what that is letting you do is see those little narrow offsets for each of those stations at a real kind of zoomed in level. And you'll see peaks. Like you'll see a peak over here. You'll see a peak over here. Let me see if I have anything on 880 and 860 are going to be kind of tough. Let me see 850. What do we have here on 850? But you'll see sometimes you'll see like one over here and one over here, one over here. Each of those little peaks is a carrier, and you can grab a hold of that peak and get rid of it with this code channel canceller. So using this micro tuner down here to kind of pick your peak, you turn this on. You can also, if you don't want to have to pick the peak and kind of manually do it, you can use this auto tune as well. I typically don't, because I like more hands-on manual control, because I kind of am a control freak. But I do sometimes use that auto tune to kind of engage and kind of find the peak that I'm trying to do if I'm having a hard time finding it. And then you have this correction slider right here. You just go kind of as you want as little correction as possible for a nice clear signal, right? The less correction you have to use, the clearer signal you're gonna have. If you're really jacking this all the way up to 15, it's gonna get real watery real fast, right? It's a lot of digital guesswork that goes in there the more correction you're using. So use just a bit more than you need to get rid of the signal. So if you're still hearing the other signal, let me go with 890 for a second. I'll demonstrate what I mean. Let's get rid of my correction. I've still got a lot of WLS in there, right? We'll have it. A little bit less. Up here. Usually I find a sweet spot for most signals is around 5. Sometimes between 5 and 10 if it's really an intense station. And you will have these periods in here, like you were here kind of popping in and out kind of sporadically like that. That can happen. Not all of these carriers are locked in dead tight and sitting on that same frequency the entire time. Sometimes they drift and wobble a little bit. WWL has proved that this week for a lot of folks. So I can still try to crank this up just a bit more. Yeah, that seems to be kind of getting most of it. So yeah, somewhere usually between 5 and 10 is all you really need. But again, what you want to try to do is use as little of that correction as possible. That will get rid of that station that you've picked here on your micro tuner down at the bottom and allow you to hear what's underneath. If you want a little extra help, if it's still a little messy sounding, you can engage some of this IF noise reduction right here. And from this little pull down menu, you see things like hi-fi, lo-fi. I usually, for the most part, keep that in DX. And what that's basically going to do is going to clean up your signal. Let me give you a demonstration without the code channel canceller of what this IF noise reduction does.
There's just the blue states.
Okay.
You understand.
So this is the signal without the canceller and without any
All right,
noise
let's
reduction.
go to George in Kansas City. George, welcome to the show.
Yes, a pleasure to talk to you. I heard that the Homeland Security Secretary.
So basically, I get rid of all that static, right? I get rid of some of the not interference, but like the static and noise and things like that. And you get a more of a clear signal. So that can actually help kind of clean it up a little bit as well if you're using the code channel canceller. I found that a little bit of noise reduction sometimes added in on top of that will help kind of clean it up and clarify and help even pull that station out a bit. There was some instances recently where I had a station in there underneath. When I got rid of the main station I was trying to get rid of, there was another station underneath. It was a little muddled. I used the noise reduction and it helped pull that out a bit more so I could hear it a little more clearly. So just something that you can use. So if you're one of those folks that's wanting to use like a phasing type situation, but you don't have the money or you don't want to spend money on a phasing unit, or you're having a hard time finding one, but you've got 2 antennas, or you don't even need 2 antennas, right? That's the other thing is the phasing, you need 2 antennas. With the code channel canceller, you don't, you just need one. Just one. Just that one antenna coming in the air spy, right? So you don't want to have to go out and have a separate antenna. You don't want to have to buy a phasing unit. You just want an SDR and an antenna. And let me connect those two up to my computer and see what I can get This co-channel canceller is fantastic. I'm a huge, and I'm going to say this again, huge fan of AirSpy's HF Plus Discovery. Pairing that with something like a W6 LVP loop. I mean, you guys talk about it all the time in the chat, how great those actually work. They're cost effective. You can also use other antennas, right? I'm using a Superloop with this right now. I have my W6 LVP loops over here on my other ham radio antenna, but I'm using a Superloop right now, and it works great. So if you have another antenna like a U-loop or a Wellbrook or some kind of terminated loop or some kind of long wire stretching out that you have maybe going through a balun or something like that, go for it. You're going to have some great results. But the AirSpy as an SDR is just really, really, really good, and it's under $200. And this thing performs as good, if not better, than like a Drake R8, right? I've got one up in the attic. It's sitting up there. It was my main rig when I did my Brasstown logs this week, which I'll talk about that in a minute. When I did my Brasstown logbook review, it was my main rig for years. This is as good, but it's about 20% the price. If it maybe even not that much. So
because most of them know exactly what they're doing. They know they're just scam artists that are taking advantage of the system. They never show up for court dates.
Now,
the overwhelming...
I will say again, there is a version 1919 of AirSpy's SDR Sharp that's out there. Doesn't have this enhanced version of the co-channel canceller. What you're looking for is version 1920. It's a release candidate. And I'll see if I can't pull up the link here and put it in the chat for you guys. Because it's not on the actual AirSpy download page. You have to, this is where like following Yusef on Prague on Twitter comes in handy, because he posts stuff like this every once in a while. He'll post release candidates and like little bits and bytes. Let's see. Oh, he took it off his pinned. Is this 1920? Or has he pushed that to the new release? I haven't looked. And I know I'm not showing my screen right now. I know. I'll see if I can get that link for you guys, where to find it. Anyway, but yes, this new version, this 1920, is superb. And this version of the co-channel canceller is superb. Works really, really well. And FMDXers, there's an FM co-channel canceller too. So I was talking earlier about using the RSP Duo for phasing out stations during Tropo openings. You can do the same thing with one antenna, an AirSpy, and the FM co-channel canceller. And it works. It works really, really well. So there you go. Let's see what you guys are talking about over here. 7:43 now, local time here. Let's go back into some more details.
The United States, and we just this year.
Okay. What you're hearing right now, for those of you who might be newer to DX or newer to the stream and don't know, what you're hearing right here. So I'm sitting on 870 right now. This is my station here in New Orleans, WWL.
There were a lot of questions of...
Right, 50,000 watts. My antenna's pointing right at them right now. I mean, it's pointing dead right at their transmitter right now. Okay. So when you are sitting on a frequency right next to a station like this, so if I'm sitting, if my big gun is on 870, I'm gonna go to 880. Watch what happens. And the AirSpy is super selective. It's really good at rejecting co-channel slop, right? Well, let's say I want a DX 880. How am I gonna do that? How am I gonna DX 880 when I've got that slop, that carryover from 870 on that frequency? How do I do that? That's where SDRs and desktop radios and portables that have sideband as well are really good for this. Throw in the upper sideband, because I'm above 870, right? I'm on 880, which is above 870. Throw in the upper sideband. Watch what happens. I get rid of the slop. Now I can actually hear something underneath there. The same principle works on the other side. If I'm on 860, now I'm below the frequency that's causing the interference. I put it in lower sideband to get away from that interference. And this is what I would be hearing if I didn't use this technique. Here's the lower sideband. So if you have an SDR or one of these like tabletop radios or portables that has a sideband, upper lower sideband functionality, I don't DX without it. I predominantly DX in either lower or upper sideband all the time. That's usually when I'm in one or the other. And having the ability to get away from that interference that way is a big, big help. So there you go. All right, so we've done a little bit of DX here on the AirSpy. Let's go back to the Perseus, and we're sitting here on, let's go to 850.
Beloved, listen to me. The depth of your love for God is in proportion to the depth of your level of comprehension of His sovereign love for you. Let me repeat this.
They really did that to you, Keegan? Was that after they switched to X? Or was that before Elon took it over? That's all I do on Twitter is about posting links and little tidbits, videos.
Thirdly, the immeasurability of the blessing of God's love. In 1 John 3:1, or 1 John 3:1.
Oh, it was before. Okay.
And please listen with your heart, listen with your ears, listen with your eyes. 1 John.
Barry says this morning on 810, he was able to switch back and forth between the Bahamas and the Colombian national anthem using the co-channel canceller. So one of those is probably dominant for him, right? One of those is on top. Use a co-channel canceller to get rid of him. The other one's there. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. If I had this technology 30 years ago when I first started DXing, my goodness.
Beyond rescuing us from sin and death and hell. You say, is more? Yes. Listen carefully, please. His love for us went beyond sacrificing himself.
So this is probably WXJC in Alabama.
God's love went beyond forgiving our sins. Really, that is a blessing by itself. All the blessings. No, but there's more. God's love went beyond cleansing for his enemies. I'm sure probably some of you are saying, well, Michael, how can that be? How can the love of God be greater and more than what you mentioned? The forgiveness of sin, eternal life, rescuing, all of that.
They're kind of hard to get rid of. And I'm on the south wires, and so I should be able to, in theory, because they're northeast of me, I should be able to get rid of them on my southeast and southern facing wires. Not so much. They're a little hard to get rid of. Okay. Let's do this. Go back. Camera one. Hi, camera one. All right. It's a new week. Here at the top of the hour, in 12 minutes, we close down week 8 of the Medium Wave Frequency Challenge. We open up week 9 officially for you to enter your logs. So let's take a look now and see what frequencies are we going to be sitting on. I told you this is one of my favorite spans of the AM band that there is. I spend more time here than any other portion of the AM band, historically and currently. We all have those frequencies you kind of go to when you're DXing. Like if you don't have a thing like the challenge to kind of point you in a direction, we all have those frequencies. We just kind of normally gravitate towards, like, start here and then go here and go here. This frequency range right here is my starting point always. All right, you ready? Yeah. Oh, yeah. You were close. You were very, very close, Barry. Yeah, dude, this is going to be a lot of fun. Let's talk about what you've got in here, okay? You've got a ton of Latin American DX. Let me just read off some of the countries for you. You've got, obviously, Mexico, US, and Canada. You've got tons of Cubans down here. You've got Colombia. You've got Venezuela. You've got Ecuador. You've got Honduras. You've got Costa Rica. I'm just off the top of my head here on this. You've got Puerto Rico in here. This is the week. If you like, now there's some other stuff outside of this on the other side, above this range. It has some good Latin Americans, but this right here, 530 to 570 is the absolute sweet spot for AMDXing Latin America. If you want to get started, you've never really done Latin American DX, this is your week to get your feet wet. Let's go. Let's do this. Let's look at the Perseus. Now this Hour of Live DX is brought to you by the International Radio Club. That's ircaonline.org. Make sure you go check them out and become a member. And by the way, guys, I haven't said this, and I need to do a better job of this myself. I'm the pot calling the kettle black on this. Let's share our DX catches with the clubs. Let's send our loggings in. I need to do better at this myself, so I'm putting myself accountable on this one. When we do our logs, let's share those with the clubs and get those logs into them, because they are a tremendous resource for us. And by sharing those with the clubs, we all get to kind of share that together and see what we're all hearing. So I'm going to promise to do better of sending my own loggings in to the clubs, both IRCA and the NRC. So let's do that. Let's all get together and start putting our logs in. It's super easy. We type them up in the Slack channels, copy paste that into your format for an email, and then send it out. Okay, that's all we have to do. Just email your logs to the appropriate editor for your region and the clubs. Let's start doing that. I was reading through and I was like, man, we should be doing a lot more of us that are getting all this good stuff. We should be sharing it with the clubs. Let's do that. All right, let's go down 530. Let's start at the basement here. Now, just like the expanded band week, if you hear a TIS or a HAR station on 530, that does count. Okay, that counts. And yes, Stephanie, South Dakota, I'm giving you a shot here. I am putting them right in your crosshairs. Right now, I know it's gonna be hard with KLAC and all that kind of stuff, right? But I'm putting South Dakota in your crosshairs a little bit here. If you can find a way to null them out using the phasing or the code channel canceler, if you can get rid of them, I'm putting South Dakota in your crosshairs here. Two main stations here on 530. We got Cuba with Radio Encyclopedia. We've got Rebelity underneath them. You can hear both. Most of us hear Encyclopedia. They're going to be doing a lot of instrumental music, I look at like 50s and 60s movie soundtracks, kind of feel orchestral instrumental music. Radio Rebellity's underneath them. A lot of times you can hear the usual standard Rebelity fare. So let's go take a look and start with them. Oh my. That's not what I wanted to hear. That's gross. Oh, my neighbors. My neighbors are paying me back. Oh yeah, KFYR, North Dakota. Don't think I won't be trying them when I put the antennas back north again. See what I mean? Kind of that kind of movie soundtrack. I never get noise like this either. This is a first. Like, check this. Seriously. This is this morning. For comparison, this is 6 a.m. this morning. I don't ever get noise like this. I don't know where this is even from. So let's get away from that, because that kind of sucks. Let's go to 540. Now here in Louisiana, where I am, right here on the Gulf Coast, Mexico is going to be my predominant, but I have heard other things here in Latin America, including Nicaragua. That's another country I forgot to mention, Nicaragua. Radio Corporacion here in Managua. This is one that you can get to. And how do I know that? We talked about offsets earlier. When you're looking at like the micro tuner, they are sitting at 539.86. Easy, super easy to spot on the waterfall. It'd be way down here, right there, 539.86. Let me pull that right here. So let's see if we have that coming in. And this 539.975 is Mexico. XEWA in Monterrey. Oof. This lower end of the band is just getting crushed. While we're waiting for an ID sequence here, I'm going to 550. There are two Latin American stations here that I think a lot of you might have a shot at. The one that I've been chasing and will continue to chase as long as I live, it feels like, is sitting down here at 549.925. It's Costa Rica, Radio Santa Clara. I've seen the trace so many times. I've got them on the waterfall. They're there. Everything is I have no audio, right? I can't hear them. So I'll continue to chase them this week. The other one that can be heard is this one, ABC Radio here in Honduras, and I'm going to give you a demonstration of what they sound like, because it is super, super distinctive. And let's see if we can actually hear it here.
Love our country and say God bless America.
This side of Mississippi, located inside the West County Phillips 66 station, you can stop in for a meal, order online, or call ahead and pick it up curbside, or have them cater your next party. Smoked pulled pork, brisket, turkey or chicken, mac and cheese, desserts, and more. 3-day barbecue and bakery inside the West County Phillips 66 station at the corner of...
Yeah, I'll have to track down the source of this noise. I never have this. Never. And I've got a noise suppressor, RFI filter on this Perseus.
Buying an engagement ring can be intimidating. At Newsletters, we ensure complete understanding of your purchase. We offer a choice of both lab and mine-grown diamonds and are able to work with any budget. Let our family help educate you on your choice at Big Ben and Dory Ferry or at wilddiamonds.com.
This bobblehead.
I really hope that they do. Oh, guess what time it is, guys? Holy crap. Almost missed it. Top of the hour time frame. Let's do this. Yeah, I didn't do much. I just heard rebellion in there.
Dust and other airborne particles. All the stuff that gets trapped in your nose, making you miserable. Don't get caught empty-handed this winter. Get the Vise, the drug-free solution that helps you breathe easier, sleep better, and feel healthier. Even better, the Vise is HSA FSA eligible. So the Vise is a great way to spend those funds before they expire. Don't wait a minute longer. Buy the Vise today and you'll breathe easier knowing you're putting your funds to good use. The Vise is available online at thevise.com. Devise, N-A-V-A-Z, clean nose, healthy life. Signalers of Big 550 and KTRS.com.
KTRS? KTSA's in there too. San Antonio.
The majority of the payload
Yeah. Ditto, Rick.
And that landing almost happened. Just 2 hours before touchdown, major navigation system failed. The team quickly an experimental switch electric system into action. The Lander takes the extra lap around the moon, allowing time for that last-minute switch. Unlike the Apollo mission more than 50 years ago, OD is on the dark side of the moon. A New York jury found former NRA leader Wade Lafayette spent with gun lobby's money and used to pay for things like exotic getaways to sometimes private planes and super yachts. He's been ordered to pay more than $4 million in restitution. More fertility clinics in Alabama have stopped providing IVF after a state Supreme Court ruled which equated frozen embryos to children. The state's Republican governor says she's now working on a solution with GOP lawmakers to protect IVF access.
Falkland Islands on 5:30, and I got to figure out if somebody in this group here hears Falkland Islands on 5:30. I'm talking about a USDX, because if you're in South America, that's different story. Some of the European folks, that kind of thing, Arctic, our friends up in Finland and Denmark and stuff. I'm talking like somewhere in the U.S. Here's Falkland Islands on 5:30. I don't know what I'll do, but it'll be something special. I mentioned ABC Radio in Honduras. I'm going to play for you a little snippet of what they sound like. This is from one of my air checks here in Mandeville. Listen for the distinct sound. Okay? Da-na-na. Listen for that. 3 notes.
ABC Radio te recuerda, un seguro de vida es clave para asegurar tu futuro y el de tu familia. ABC Radio, aportando orientación a la familia hondureña. ABC Radio, reinventando la radio en Honduras.
Okay, did you hear that? That little da-na-na, bling. Play one more time. Ingrain that in your brain. If you need Honduras or you just want another Honduran in your logbook, get that ingrained and stuck in your brain, because that little na-na-na, I promise you, I've been sitting here before DXing 5. It's my favorite frequency, by the way, 550. So I'll be sitting on 550 just all the time, DXing off of it, listening to KTRS, KTSA, whatever it is. And I don't even hear a station in Spanish talking. I don't hear any music or talking or anything. But I'll hear na 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 bling in the background. It cuts through like a freaking knife. Okay, so get that ingrained in your brain. If you're on 550 this week and you hear that sound, you got Honduras. All right. There's Costa Rica, just barely there right now. Conditions to the south still not super great. This is normally a big red line. Not as thick as this one. But that's usually a nice, big, thick red line right there. So we're going to continue to watch for it. But I want Costa Rica in my logbook, and I haven't been able to pull it off yet. So we heard KTRS. We heard KTSA underneath them a little bit. Let's go back and see that ID we missed here on 540. The other one is Rebellion. Yeah, there's Encyclopedia and Rebellion, Rick, on 530.
Que tenga manga uno a un costado del planetario. Este sábado 24 y domingo 25 de febrero tenemos una cita a partir de las 10 de la mañana al mercadito más grande y divertido de toda la ciudad, donde podrás encontrar gran variedad de ropa, accesorios, maquillaje, dulces, todo para tu mascota y comida deliciosa. Ven y haz picnic con nosotros. Pasa un fin de semana diferente.
Oh, Keegan, my friend, you just hit on the dream. Is the day that I start getting into Central and South America on FM. I remember, was it last year, 2 years ago? Someone got into maybe it was the 2021 season. Somebody got into Colombia. remember that, and because I was in Charleston at the time, and I had Puerto Rico coming in that day, and I want to say some Dominican Republic and some Cubans. But I didn't hear Colombian stations that day. I really wanted it. But the day you see me start getting FM down there, I'm going to be hard to live with. Oops. Did I just close it out? Yeah, you're right, Sean. I've got some on 6. I need to get the 2 minutes.
Consulta términos, condiciones y vigencia en tiempo.
Parque Tangamanga 1 a un costado del planetario. Este sábado 24 y domingo 25 de febrero tenemos una cita a partir de las 10 de la mañana al mercadito más grande y divertido de toda la ciudad, donde podrás encontrar gran variedad de ropa, accesorios, maquillaje, dulces, todo para tu mascota y comida deliciosa. Ven y haz.
So this one over here on this left-hand side, that's Nicaragua. Barely coming in. This one right here is XCWA in Monterey. There is also actually a San Luis Potosi, isn't it? That's the big one, 150 kilowatt. That's the main one you'll hear. I have heard the other one, the one in Monterey as well. I've heard them as well. And then you've got another station in Mexico here, XCWF, sorry, down here as well. I've heard them before. So I've had the nice, I haven't gotten to XEHS over here, La Mejor. I want that one. I need that Mexican state. But I haven't heard any of these guys, or I haven't gotten down here. XEMIT, that's one I'd love to get to. Oh my God, Campeche. Oh, I would love to get that. But normally it's XCWA is the primary one here, and Nicaragua off the side there. As far as Latin Americans here on 540, there is a Colombian down here, but I haven't seen it widely reported. I've never heard it here. Let's go back down here and get that encyclopedia, because it's unique, the ID here. I'm not going to do that to you. Let's grab that. I have an ID saved. This is one of the reasons I grab all these air checks, guys, and put them up on the YouTube channel. Speaking of the YouTube channel, yep. Let me do. What was I looking for? Oh yeah, encyclopedia. So here is the ID from Radio Encyclopedia. Here in Cuba. I'm just going to play the air clip that I already have saved here. You can do an ad on me? Yeah, you can do an ad. I won't pull it up on screen. I'll just pull it on the audio here.
Transmite CMBQ Radio Enciclopedia desde La Habana, Cuba.
I won't. I haven't picked next week yet, but I will.
Esa es la hora en Cuba. La una.
So that whole sequence there that you just heard, that's the top of the hour ID sequence. Sometimes it's right near the top of the hour, maybe plus or minus a minute or two, but that's their usual top of the hour sequence for Radio Encyclopedia here in Cuba. I'm going to hit one more time. That little jaunty little tune here. That's how you know you got it. You hear that? Log it.
Transmite CMBQ Radio Enciclopedia desde La Habana, Cuba.
Yeah, once you hear I mean, you can wait for the ID, obviously, but if all you hear is that little na 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 na, if you hear that, log it. You got them. So we got 530. We talked about that. We talked about 540. I've never gotten a lot. I mean, I've gotten some audio from Nicaragua. That's why I put it in the logbook on the 539.86. But it's really tough, man. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's tough to get audio out of them sometimes, especially for me here with Mexico so close by. That makes it really, really tough. But every once in a while, Mexico's not there, and there's something else, or that one, San Luis Potosi's not there, and you hear another Mexican. So you never know what you're gonna hear. 550. We talked about ABC Radio. You've also got Radio Nacional de Colombia down here. You've also got Radio Mundial in Caracas, Venezuela. You've got Santa Clara. We talked about that one here in Costa Rica at 549.9255. Rebelde is on there as well, as we did hear that. Still hear Rebelde in there every once in a while. I haven't heard a station out of Mexico yet here on 550. I've heard everybody else, but they're kind of further over here to the west, so I would like to get at least one of those for a new Mexican state here for me. Some of you on the East Coast may be able to pull in WPAB in Ponce, Puerto Rico, may be able to pull them in. But I think this one here in Colombia, that's usually the dominant station here for me on 550 is Colombia, when I'm pointing to the south at least. Other than that, it's KTRS and KTSA every time. 560, let's see what we catch here.
There's no better way to share that hope. We use class at your church. This is the time of year when lots of people are ready to get their money right. They're looking for help, and you can be theForce.com for details. You know how life-changing it is. There's no better way to share that hope than by leading the FCU class at your church. This is the time of year when lots of people are ready to get their money right. They're looking for help, and you can be the one to step up for hope, just like FCU did. It's easy to get started, plus leading a class totally free. Start making a difference as an FCU coordinator by going to FCU.
Yeah, I think Nicaragua signs off its 0200 UTC, 0300 UTC, somewhere in there they sign off. So that can be one. I think also Costa Rica does around that same time as well. I think it's 0300 they sign off. So you'll see the trace and then just disappears. That's an indicator that's who you had. But I'm waiting to get audio before I put Costa Rica. So we just heard WHBQ, and here is KLVI. Yeah, they're daytimers here. Rick, they're daytimers for me here. They've got a incredible transmitting setup in a marsh, and it just gets right over to me during the daytime. 560. I also have to be QAM in Miami quite a bit. If you're looking south here, as we've been kind of talking about, XEOC here in Mexico City is a possibility for some of you. Rebelde is another possibility. There is a Radio Nacional de Colombia here, 10 kilowatt. Look at that, man. If I could go, I would absolutely lose my mind if I got Guyana. 7 kilowatts. Just freaking damn. You get me Guyana in my logbook. That'd be another one I'll be tough to live with. So some of you East Coasters, especially David, you up there in Maine, you feeling froggy on some Guyana, man? There's a Lima, Peru, but I don't see the Oriente 2 kilowatts often being reported. But 560 is a little bit less of the Latins, and then we get to 570 and it blows back up again. We've got Radio Reloj. We've got Jotb is what you'll hear here for XEBJB in Mexico. You've also got another Radio Nacional de Colombia on 570 that you can get in the logbook. Those are the big ones. I haven't heard any of these Central Americans yet, but I do want to give those a shot. But 570 Radio Nacional de Colombia, Reloj on 570, and the Jotb. They're in Mexico. Those are your big ones. So your big frequency is 550. That's where the majority of the big gun stations are going to be located, is on 550. 570's got the Colombian here as well. I'm trying to remember, what was the one that I had Ecuador? Maybe I misspoke on the Ecuador. Maybe I did my filtering wrong. Scratch Ecuador from my list. Colombia, Venezuela, Honduras, Costa Rica, Puerto Rico, Mexico, Cuba, U.S., and Canada. Those, I think, are the ones within reach of quite a few folks here. Let's see what we had here at the top of the hour at 570. I guarantee you're going to hear Radio Reloaded. Someone just heard Guyana in New England. I'm saying it. By the way, I'm going up right now to fix the form. I know the form is not working. I think that's these guys. La Voz Radio right here. XCBJB. That would make sense. That's the one I do hear the most is Hotebe. Let me go ahead and get your link hooked up here for week 9. That is published now. So let me go ahead and get this put in place. I just got to fix that current week link on the website here for you guys. And all right, publish. Okay, so now it should now be working. May have to refresh, but if you are up on the dxchallenges.com website, and I hope that you are, because that's where you would want to go so that you can be part of the fun with our medium wave frequency challenge. I hope that you're there. So if you are, though, and go to the challenges area, week 9 should now be up and running. Let me scroll up myself here. Challenges. Season 3. Current week. This little box right here, that's where you want to click. Go to current week. It might take it a second because sometimes WordPress gets a little slow. Not as bad as some sites that I've tried, but there's week 9. Yep, so we're current. And let's see, we've already got Bill Curry, CHLO in Brampton, already logged in there. So you guys are already behind. Bill's got it. He's on it, man. All right, let's look in here and see what else we had on 570. I would imagine that KLIF in Dallas is the U.S. station in there. That's who I hear all the time. Although I did finally get WNAX in South Dakota this year. Finally got them. Took me all this time. Okay, let's go back live on it now. Is the noise still bad? 5:30 is bad. It's not as noisy. All right, so that's a look at some of the Latins. We're going to come back here in a few moments. We're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we'll look at some of the other stations as well, some of the U.S.-based stations, Canadians, that might be within your earshot or your antenna shot, so to speak. Let's go, Blue. There we go. For this week's challenge. So don't go anywhere, my friends. More DX Central Live is coming back right after this.
DX Central, because we're all about radio. Visit us at dxcentralonline.com or check us out on YouTube. Search DX Central. DX Central Live is brought to you in part by...
Since 1933, the National Radio Club has been serving AMDXers while providing some of the most in-depth information in the hobby. From the annual NRC AM log, a must-have reference for domestic station information, to antenna design reference manuals, and of course, the DX News Member Bulletin, which is filled with station information updates, domestic and international loggings, and a whole lot more. Become a member today. For more information, log on to nationalradioclub.org. That's nationalradioclub.org. While the HF bands can be filled with entertaining and intriguing transmissions, how do you know when and where to look? Let Teague Publishing's Global Radio Guide lead the way. In addition to its exhaustive list of time and frequency for international broadcasters, radio hobby icon Gail Van Horn brings you equipment reviews, an SDR buyer's guide, feature articles, and more. Pick up your copy today. Visit teaguepublishing.com for more information. That's teaguepublishing.com. From the pages of its DX Monitor Member Bulletin, members of the International Radio Club of America share their domestic and international AMDX loggings. In its Mexican log, a wealth of information can be found of stations from south of the border. Technical guides, sunrise, sunset maps, and more make the IRCA a must-join for any AMDXer. For more information, log on to ircaonline.org. That's ircaonline.org.
Through crashes of static in quiet hours, we listen. In languages we can scarcely understand, and of places we have only visited in our dreams, we listen. Incessantly, we perfect our array of aerials, receivers, and resources. We refine our skills and our techniques so that we might listen. We are DX Central, and we're all about radio. Visit us at dxcentralonline.com or check us out on YouTube. Search DX Central.
Keep up with DX Central. Follow us on Twitter at DX Central.
From the DX Central North Shore Studios, this is DXC Live. Now here's your host, Lloyd Van Horn.
It's DX Central Live from the North Shore Studios here in Mandeville, Louisiana. We're in Studio A. And we're cooking the DX, man. We're down 530 to 570 kilohertz right now for our new Week 9 with the medium wave frequency challenge. So we just got that started here at the top of the hour, and we're going to be cooking on that all week and seeing what we can hear. Hopefully some Latin American DX. I like that. That's kind of my thing. And I know a lot of you guys like to do that as well. Maybe get some new countries in the logbook, or at least some more from a country, excuse me, that you don't hear very often. So hopefully we can do that this week. All right, so let's do some more shout outs. I want to make sure I have a chance to get to you guys here and celebrate our successes. So what we do here at DX Central is we celebrate our success. We pat each other on the back together. We blow the horn of victory. And we do celebrations for things like new stations logged, if you hear a new station the last week, or new countries if you log a new country that you hadn't heard before, new states, new Canadian provinces, new states from the country of Mexico, new stations from Louisiana, new stations from Wisconsin. We got all kinds of little fun stuff that we do. We've got a Google form that you can go to that will actually help you put that submission in. You can see the different categories and stuff that's there. So make sure that you do that. I think if I hit Control V, yep, it's still there. There's the link for the shout out form right there for you. All right, get those shout outs in, and we'll get you some Horn of Victory blowing and some fun stuff in here. So we did our first round last hour. Let's start with our next round here. Not much time spent on this week's challenge for our friend Sean Cusco because he was in Missouri with Ward N0AX doing a little ham radio contesting for the ARRL DX CW contest, and kicking butt, by the way. Their team broke the record so far, we can tell. Had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 operators there. and in 48 hours logged 5,721 QSOs, 569 multipliers. If you're a ham radio contester, you know what I'm talking about here. Multipliers are countries, right? So each band, you're working 160 meters, 80 meters, 40 meters, 20 meters. So every time you work a country in that band, that's a multiplier. So it multiplies your score times your number of QSOs that you have. They had 127 countries on 10 meters, 121 on 15, 115 on 20 meters, 100 countries on 40, 71 on 80 meters. That's how many I've worked. I think 70. I got 74 countries lifetime on 80 meters, and they did 71 in one 48-hour period, and 35 on 160 meters for a total of 569 multipliers. Final score of 9,726,486 points. Wow. So yeah, not a whole lot of time for the challenge, but new ones this week included the XJC 850 in Birmingham, 454 miles, KFJC 870 in Fort Worth, 717 miles, and 870 WPWT Colonial Heights, Tennessee, 403 miles, all on a W6 LVP loop antenna. My friend, you're getting that big horn of victory for you, my friend. That's a lot of QSOs in a 48-hour period. Even for 5 people, that's a lot. That's a lot. Over 5,000 QSOs. That's 1,000 QSOs a person in 48 hours. It's exhausting. And it's all Morse code, man. We're not talking about just sitting there talking or, FT8ing it. Right? I could probably do some RIDI or PSK or FT8. That, 1,000 QSOs in a weekend. It'd be a lot, but it'd be doable. But Morse coding it? Shoot, son. Good job, my friend. Proud of you. David Pete up in Maine on deck here. 3 new logs from Spain this week to bring the total of countries or stations heard from the country of Spain to 10. Man's heard 10. He's heard more from Spain, right? He's heard more stations from the country of Spain than I have from the state of South Carolina. I've heard 9 stations in South Carolina. He's heard 10 from Spain. I've heard 10 in North Carolina, and that's just up the road. And he's crushing it. Heard 855 Radio Nationale, 1017 RNE5, and another Radio Nationale on 774. My goodness, man. We got so many shout outs coming in. This is awesome. I love this. Look at all these. Tom Laskowski, South Bend, Indiana. Your turn, my friend. Oh, good. Okay, good job, David. Awesome, man. more stuff from Spain. I'm envious. I missed that about the East Coast. 890 CJDC in Dawson's Creek, British Columbia. Made it here last night, very weak under WLS. Was able to hear enough bits and pieces to match with the SDR in Prince George, British Columbia for a match. That's number 4 from British Columbia for Tom Laskowski in South Bend, Indiana, my friend. Got my chainsaw bogged down over here. What's going on? Keegan, part of the Boot Crew North, on February 18th got WPHT Philly under KGYN. That's 1,083 miles on 1210 there. WPHT for Newen from Philadelphia, and 1060 WQMV Waverly, Tennessee. And ABC News, 363 miles on the 19th for another new one. And then on the 21st, got himself a new one on the FM side of things on 95.9 KFWR in Jacksboro, Texas. It's on 95.9 The Ranch. That's 298 miles on Tropo. So good job, my friend, on some new logs for the Boot Crew North. Oh, Sean also has an addendum here, by the way. 2 more logs for the challenge. Now 5 new total. WYAM 890 Hartselle, Alabama, 388 miles. And Radio Revolucion on 890 out of Havana for 1,222 miles. My goodness, man. Good job. And we go back to the Horn of Victory. And the chainsaw getting fired up one more time. Look at all these logs, man. Y'all are crushing it. I'm looking to see, do we have any? Let's see, that's no. Okay. Do we have any? No. Okay. All right. Just looking to see what else we got coming up here. I know. Okay. Good. Todd's got me. All right, Todd, I got you coming up here in a minute. Dennis, Ladysmith, Virginia. Crushing it, man. 850 WFTL, Florida. WYLF, New York. EEI, Massachusetts. I'm jealous. WRUF in Gainesville, Florida. All on 850 this week. WSON in Kentucky. Got them, man. That was a fun one. On 860. Also WEVA, Virginia. WFMO, North Carolina. All on 860. WKAR in Michigan. WTCG in North Carolina. WMTL, Kentucky. WMDB, Tennessee. WRFD, Ohio. All on 880. And WFKJ in Pennsylvania on 890. I told you this man's been crushing it. On fire. Somebody call the fire department. This man's on fire. Look at all that from Dennis this week. Good job, man. Good job. Walter L. Johnson in Albany, Georgia. Got 570 WWNC, my old haunt, the station I used to work at. 570 WWNC in Asheville. Appropriate for our new frequencies, but got them this week. 570 WWNC. Let's see if we can get them again this week, man. Anyone who knows the history of that station may remember Scotty Rodarmer, who used to do the morning show on 570. I was there in studio for his last morning show when he retired. The person who did the news was off that week, and I was the fill-in news person at Clear Channel Radio Asheville, because I used to be a news director in Silva, North Carolina at WRGC when they were still on 680. And so I got to be the morning news guy in studio the whole week, and then the last day for Scotty Rodarmer when he retired. Very, very honorable to be able to be in the studio that morning, because that was a really cool morning. The TV stations were out. It was a really cool day. All right. We'll do one more here, and then we'll put a pause in the celebrations and get back to get those in another round here in a bit. So let's get to our friend Todd, K6SUD in SoCal. Todd, hopefully you're still in there with us, man, because we got some stuff to talk about here, such as a new log, a new state for Todd, KDXU 890 in St. George, Utah. Another new log, new state, got Denver, Colorado, 850 KOA. Got another new log, a new country, a new Mexican state, Tijuana, Baja, XEMO on 860. Oh, by the way, what's got all this new stuff for him? Oh, he got a W6 LVP loop, that's all. So, my man, let's start off with the fireworks. Because of all these new states, I expect more. I expect more states coming in for me, man. Got that cool loop up in the air, pulling in all the signals, including what? Yeah! Yeah. There you go, Todd. I expect good things from that W6 LVP loop and you paired together, my friend. So make sure you keep coming back and letting us know what you're hearing. All right, we've got a whole bunch more of these to get to. I see Mesa Mike in there. I see Mexico Mike in there. We're going to get to all you guys here tonight for sure. So make sure you stick around. If you haven't heard your shout out yet, we're going to get to you in a little bit. But we're going to take a real quick pause on the shout outs. And let's talk a little bit about some FMDX. FMDX season's just around the corner. We're going to do a little more deeper dive into preparing for FMDX season sometime here in March as we get closer to Tropo season starting up for a lot of our coastal folks. But I did want to take just a brief moment here to talk about FMDX because we're already starting to see some Tropo here on the Gulf Coast. And I know on the East Coast, you guys have had a little bit as well. And we saw such amazing tropo happen in even like the middle of the country this last year that you never know when this stuff's going to pop up. The weather's been just kind of all over the place, and that's giving us some amazing conditions that we aren't really used to seeing on the FM side of things. And we've had a couple of E-skip openings already. There was even a report of a Mexican DXer last night down in Mexico, in Monterey, hearing up into Kansas and Iowa on E-skip yesterday on E-skip on FM. So let's talk a little bit about FMDX, because we do a lot of talk here about AM, but we're pretty broad banded here as far as our interest in radio. We do a lot of different stuff. I talked about ham radio, which we do here as well. We do in the contest next week. But we also do a lot of FMDX here. And this is something that's actually, I've done FMDX now for roughly 30 years. I started back in 93, 94. When I first started doing my FMDX, around the time I was doing AM as well, but it was not until about 2020 that it kind of clicked. 2020, 2021. That's when it finally clicked. That DX season that we had in 2021 is what got me. For any of you who were doing it, 2021 E-skip season was amazing. It was unbelievable. There was an E-skip opening every day. We were getting double hops, and I was seeing from Charleston to Bermuda. I was seeing up into the Maritime provinces up in Canada, down into Puerto Rico and the Caribbean. It was unbelievable. And last year was pretty good. I know some folks had it better than others, but last year was pretty decent. So E-skip is going to be E-skip seasons around the corner. Usually get started sometime in May, late May into June, July, and August. But Tropo season is going to be before that. So what can you do to prepare yourself now for FMDX season? Well, it's the same thing I've talked about many different times. Make sure you know your band. That's the number one most important thing that you can do to get ready for FMDX season, is to get to know your band. How do you do that? You go frequency by frequency by frequency by frequency in your local area, and you notate what you hear. You do a band scan, right? It's the same thing we all do on AM and everything else anyway, but on FM, what you're looking for is a little bit different. So you're looking for open frequencies, right? You're going to notate all the places you have your locals, and you can log those as your locals and things like that. That's fine. I have all my locals logged in my logbook so that I know where they are and they're all in there. But what you're really wanting to make sure you do here is also pay attention to the areas where you have nothing. Now, when I say nothing, I've mentioned this a couple weeks ago, there's a difference between nothing, and I have a local station on 89.7, and they're an HD station, so I've got HD signals on 89.5 and 89.9, and so on those two frequencies, there's nothing. That's not nothing. That's a hole that can be, useful during an opening. You might have some stuff pop up on there, but it has to overcome the strength of the HD signal for you to hear it. What I'm talking about is like open. There ain't nothing there. It's just a hole in the wall of that FM band. That's what you're wanting to find. Get to know those frequencies very, very well. Once you find what those frequencies are, write them down on a piece of paper, put them in your logbook, wherever you have easy access to it. So when there is an opening, or you think maybe an opening is happening, you can go to those and get to them very quick. I even have them saved in my copy of SDR Console, where I do all my FMDX. You can actually set up individual receivers on different frequencies, right? I've got every one of my, I call them beacon frequencies. I've got every one of my open beacon frequencies sitting there, and I can just go between one and click on this button, go on that one, and then go on that one, then go on that one. And I can very quickly scan to see what's happening on the FM band, if I have anything that's happening and opening that's going on. So get to know your FM band first. We're going to talk later on as we get closer to the season about things like auto loggers, about some different equipment and different antennas that you can use, and portables versus SDRs, and all the different ins and outs of FMDX. We're going to have a whole FMDX special as we get closer to the seasons, probably sometime in late March or April, somewhere in there. But this is a really good time of the year to maybe stretch your legs a little bit, get cozy on that FM band, refamiliarize yourself if it's been a while. I'm going to be doing another band scan probably in the next week or two on my FM bands here, just to refamiliarize myself with it, to make sure there's nothing that's changed since last year. Things change, callers change, formats change, new stations come up, old stations go away. I have a station on 88.3 here that's reading for the blind. Right now it's not on the air, but it sometimes will be. I want to make sure I can notate where we are with all that. Sometimes HD signals come and go, right? So refamiliarize yourself, even if you've done this exercise before. refamiliarize yourself with your local band. Do at least one in-depth band scan, notating everything that you hear on every single frequency, whether there's something there or not. Do that at least once. I recommend 2 or 3 times between now and the time that we get to the FM season. Get yourself acclimated to your band. Make sure you know it. Make sure you've got it down pat. That's going to be a big, big help for you come FM season. You're not going to be scrambling going, where do I go? Where do I go? There's an E-skip opening in my area. Where do I go? If you know your band, you'll know exactly where to go. You'll have a plan in place and ready to go to get you there. Okay? All right. So that's one thing I wanted to make sure I talk about. So I also want to talk about this. This is a little bit off topic from an AM FM DX perspective, but I do want to kind of touch on this. Let's see. Oh, before I get to that, while I'm looking for this link here, we've got a solar eclipse coming up here very soon in the month of April. That's going to go kind of cut across the U.S., and there's been a lot of chatter on social media and some of the DX chat groups about what does that mean for AM radio. Sky and Telescope magazine actually did, I think I've got it bookmarked here, actually did a little something. Maybe I didn't. I'll see if I can find it. I thought I had a link here for it. Sky and Tele magazine actually did a special article on the impact of the eclipse on AM radio specifically. So what can you expect? Well, we can talk a bit about that, especially as we get closer, but just as an overall, it's definitely something I'm not in the path of totality here. I was for the 2017 when I was in Charleston. I wasn't doing a lot of AMDX back then or whatever. But it is something, even with some dimming of the sun here, I plan on doing a little recording on that day to see what all I get. Now, it's going to be a lot like a gray line situation, right? Think about sunsets. That D layer of the atmosphere starts to fade away at sunset, right? And then as it rises back in the morning, the D layer, it builds back up. It doesn't always happen uniformly, so you're going to have little spots where the D layer is thick, some spots where that's not there at all, but that erodes and builds in a non-uniform way. So sometimes where it's a little thicker or it's built up, you'll have more ground wave propagation. In spots where either it's really, really thin D layer or it's gone or hasn't built up yet, you're going to get a little more skywave or some kind of hybrid mixture of it. So that's what you can really kind of expect. The cool thing about the eclipse, what makes it unique, is that these are all daytime only stations that are going to be broadcasting full tilt like a Peterbilt, as they say on Letterkenny, full daytime power, full daytime antenna pattern. So if you have any sort of gray line type enhancement going on, that's going to really come to fruition as these daytime stations fade in, because now their signal can travel a little bit further, because maybe that D layer is kind of eroded a little bit. It's only going to be April, right? It's going to be a little bit more daylight than we have right now, but it's not July. It's not even August when we had it in 2017. That was trying to erode a very robust D layer, because you're in the middle of summer. You're trying to erode a very robust D layer in a very short amount of time. I think in this case, because this is happening in April. Now, if this were happening in like January or February, oh, wow, you'd be talking about a whole different thing, right? Because there's already a weak D layer to begin with. But in April, it shouldn't be as robust as what we would see in a June, July, or August. So it might be interesting to see what pops up. So even though I'm not in totality, I'm recording. If you're in the path of totality, my recommendation to you is this. Set up your SDR to record, or just hit record and walk away. Go out and enjoy the solar eclipse. I know you're going to want to DX this thing. I know you do. But go out and watch it. Get your goggles, get your eclipse glasses, right? Don't burn your retinas, please. But go out and observe this thing with your own eyes. It's a once in a lifetime experience. When we were in Charleston, we got to see it. It was amazing. It was absolutely amazing to see a solar eclipse totality happening right before your eyes. Okay. It's something I will never forget. So please do yourself a favor. Don't sit in the shack and miss this amazing event. Go out, observe the eclipse, do it safely, but observe the eclipse. Let that SDR recording just roll. You'll be able to go back later and check it and see what you got. Let that SDR recording just roll, but live in the moment. Go see this thing, please. So we'll talk again about this as we get a little bit closer. But at least wanted to kind of touch on it because I know there's been a lot of chatter about the eclipse here on social media and some of the other channels that we have here. So Justin, our friend up in Minnesota, wanted me to touch on this. And I'm trying to find the link. I had it here before, and I apologize, Justin. I should have probably had this loaded up earlier, but it wanted me to touch on the ARRL and the HOA legislation that's out there right now, trying to basically protect amateur radio operators and DXers like ourselves. Like if whether you do AM radio or not, if you want to put an antenna in your yard, if you have a house, if you're an HOA, as Justin, our friend in Minnesota, has found out, it can be kind of tricky because they can have some teeth on getting those antennas down, so you can't enjoy your DX and be able to do what you need to do. So there is legislation out there. I'll see if here before we wrap up tonight, I'll see if I can find the link for it, or if one of you haven't, can drop it in the chat for me with the details on it. But we want to make sure that we protect our ability as amateur radio operators, as hobbyists, to be able to do what we do from a public service standpoint. We just saw this with the cell phone networks going down this week. Amateur radio is there. So amateur radio service didn't go down. Hams were still talking and communicating, even when the cell phone networks couldn't, right? So during emergencies, during disasters, during network congestion times, or whatever it might be, ham radio is going to be there. As when everything else fails, ham radio, right? So from a public service standpoint, being able to do what we need to do to help make sure that communications stay in place and are being completed. And that's not just during the event. Like, you have to, keep your gear in operation. You have to be able to be familiar with your equipment and your gear and how to operate and things like that. That takes practice. That's not something you can just get out of the box real quick because the cell phone networks are down. Let me just crank it up real quick. No, this stuff needs to be there, right? And so having this legislation to help us protect the hobby and protect our ability to do what we need to do from an amateur radio standpoint and a radio hobbyist standpoint, I think is very, very important. So I'll see if I can't find that link. We'll talk a bit about that and how you can support the cause the ARRL is trying to do. So maybe you can reach out to your folks in Congress and try to make sure that they know that this is something that's very, very important to you. I'll see if I can find those resources here and share those here in a little bit. All right. Let's talk about some more DX, right? Let's get back on the radio. Let's go back now to the Air Spy, actually, because we've been on the Perseus a bit. We're going to hit the Air Spy. This hour of Live DX is being brought to you by the International Radio Club of America, the IRCA, and that's ircaonline.org is your website for more information about becoming a member of the IRCA. So let's go take ourselves down to 5. Let's see what's on 530. Now, I have a little noise reduction on this one. Let's see if that noise is still here. Not really. It's there. Not as bad as it was.
Curiosidades y más curiosidades de un lado fascinante de la Amazonía, el Huatzín, tema que hoy centró nuestro interés. Desde Radio Enciclopedia,
Radio Enciclopedia.
terminamos nuestra colección escuchando varios cortes del disco Éxito de la Plaza de Paz, titulado Paso Negro y Continuación. Y creo que se lo volveramente a bajar divertido. La segunda, en cierre de la vuelta ciclística a Valencia, la cubana de la Sierra, el trofeo del masivo y curioso sprint que
And you've also got Rebeldy in there as well, right? So we're hearing Encyclopedia, we're hearing Rebeldy as well.
De la octava vuelta ciclística valenciana 2024 en España. Sierra concretó su excelente actuación tras 118 kilómetros con montañas en un tramo no tan abrupto como la jornada reina del viernes, gracias al trabajo colectivo de su equipo, el Movistar. Olivia Baril, para quien administra.
I'm going to do a quick pause there on that one. Let me. Yeah, that's Rebeldy for sure. I'm doing a parallel here. That's 1620 Rebeldy. Do we now have multiple Rebeldy outlets on 1620? There's an echo there. It sounds like 1180, 1550-ish now. So let me go back over here to the air spy. Mother Nature's son. All right, so there's 530. We got Encyclopedia. We've got Rebellion. Let's try 540. Los 40. That's XEWA.
A ver, siguiente.
Carl asks if most stations have RDS from 92.1 up. Mostly, yeah. Most of your commercial stations are going to have it. Some of the smaller ones may or may not, or places a little more remote may or may not. Sometimes I found. But most of your stations that are kind of bigger commercial stations that are in competitive markets, especially, they're going to have RDS. Because they want that on your car stereo screen, right? Saying what station it is that you're hearing. So that's the nice thing. On the 92.1 and up, that's that commercial portion of the band. Below that's non-commercial, religious, public radio, stuff like that. They tend to not have it as much or as often as they do in the commercial portion, but they do still have some. But definitely you'll find it more in the commercial. Oh yes, David mentions a good point here. When I say 530 to 570, by the way, that is inclusive of everything in that range. So 531, 549, your 9 kilohertz transatlantic, trans-Pacific stations, they do count. TIS and HAR stations on 530, they do count. So everything between 530 and 570, including those 9 kilohertz non-US splits, those do count. And there are frequency allocations on the challenge form for you to be able to log those stations on those frequencies. He's got 549 Algeria coming in right now with French Talk. That's Jill FM on 549 up in Maine. So that's one you can log, man. That's one for the mileage record for the week, hopefully.
La que buena. Hola. La que buena, por causa ¿cuál votas? Y voto por Capaz de la Tierra. Capaz. Él es ya tierra, no él es pero es Javi.
Oh, let's try 550 here.
They had an automatic berth in 07 waiting for them if they win. And in 2013, they needed some help. But they beat Auburn, and it was a Big Ten championship that night. It would have wound up in the beating title games as well. The playoffs is already game.
If I had to guess, that Spanish station on 530, probably Colombia more than likely.
This is going to be this vast wasteland.
Or Honduras.
I'm not going to deny it, Ben. Those 4 on-site playoff games next year are going to be awesome. But we took those already from on-site during the season. We're one of those. We're chasing what would have been an awesome regular season game away, put on campus somewhere in December. That's my please. And ultimately, I think bring the people that he likes, and so we've just added.
I'll go back to that one. 560.
All right, let's go to Ashley in Salt Lake City. Ashley,
there is a Guatemalan here on 560 in Ciudad de Guatemala. I know Mike, his Mike was asking about that earlier. I haven't heard them here. That would be one I would love to get, though. I have a couple of Guatemalans, but they're not one of them. I would love to have them in the long run. Marco's got a carrier on 549, no audio. A little bit better earlier in the evening, tends to be, yeah. Jacob's got CBK blasting on 540 as usually says, and also hearing XEWA in there with a phone ring sound effect every so often.
How much is the loan for? When I'm done with the 2-year program, it's going to be $25,000. Okay. When are you going to stop borrowing money?
I imagine this is KLVI. I would love to, though, to get that Guatemala. That actually would be really nice to
For
do.
somebody leaving you money, you would have nothing. You would have zero savings. Like, let's be clear about that. Right. So, what's the plan? You tell me.
Let's see if we can get rid of the station here. I've got several peaks. Look at all these peaks here on the bottom. Let's just go through them and see what we get rid of. You see how it makes a difference with that noise reduction? Like, watch the comparison here. No noise reduction. Static. Trying to pull stuff out of that. Engage noise reduction. See that difference that it makes? Kind of cleaning things up a little bit. Even if I take off the co-channel canceller.
What does your husband make? Like, what will be the income while you're...
Take off the co-channel canceller. There's stuff underneath this main dominant station. Not really easy to hear. We re-engage noise reduction. Now I can more distinctly hear those weaker stations. I'm telling you, SDR Sharp is the stuff, man. Let's check 570. It's that time, top of the hour time frame. Fire on them, Sirensville. I'm guessing that pop station there is Hota Bay. And you can play with these profiles here, this little pull-down menu of profiles. You can play with that. Kind of see what all is there. And what difference it makes. It really kind of adjusts the threshold at which the noise reduction kind of kicks in more than anything. And Jacob's got KNMX Las Vegas, New Mexico coming in on 540 with modulation largely in the lower sideband. David up in Maine's got a carrier on 531 as well, but hasn't got any audio from Algeria just yet. And let's see. Jacob says KNMX must run con power side because their modulation is always in the lower sideband. That's one that I haven't heard yet, man. I want them. Mexico's always in the way. I imagine Colombia's in there as well. I kind of hear some Colombian potential signal in there as well as Hota Bay. No very low just yet. There was real low. There's low. You can always be counted on. I'm looking for you, Todd, by the way. I gotta scroll back a little bit here on Yusef's feed. He used to have it pinned, but he doesn't have it pinned anymore. Found it. Nope. There it is. Alright, I'm going to bookmark this so I always keep it. Here is the SDR Sharp version 1920. The release candidate version with the improved code channel cancel. I just put the link in the chat so everybody has that to the page with the downloads. Let's go over here and swap over to the AirSpy, from the AirSpy to the Perseus now, and let's check our same frequencies, what we caught here recording at the top of the hour. Nothing there. Let's go back here to 560.
You know, for 5 years I've been telling you about the importance. This is an ad for Xander Insurance. But since this is one of the most effective ways I have to get my point across, so be it. For over 25 years I've been telling you about the importance of term life insurance and protecting your family. Listen, you need to check out Xander.com or call them at 800-356-4282. I can't say it enough. Protect your
KLVI, I would imagine.
It's what you're supposed to do. Go to Xander.com or call 800-356.
News Talk 560 KLVI, Beaumont. Listen on your free iHeartRadio app for all your music, radio, and podcasts.
In custody. 9 Lisa Lucera, Fox News. University of Georgia police say they've been arrested in the murder of Lakin Riley, a 26-year-old nursing student who body was found near the school's intramural field yesterday. 26-year-old Jose Antonio Ibarra faces multiple counts.
A long list of crimes, including felony murder, murder with malice, kidnapping, and injury a 911 call. Police so far the evidence suggests it was a failed act.
All right, I'm going to drop another link here in the chat for everybody. This is what I was talking about earlier with ARRL. This is the Amateur Radio Preparedness Act, Emergency Preparedness Act, being co-sponsored by a senator from Mississippi and another from Connecticut. It was introduced last June. And so this is a post from the ARRL dated February 14th of this year. Basically, the bill would eliminate homeowner association land use restrictions that prohibit, restrict, or impair the ability of an amateur radio operator to install and operate amateur station antennas on residential properties that they own. So, very, very important legislation. Making sure that our hobby is protected and that the amateur radio world as a whole is protected, and that you protect amateur radio, you protect all of it, and making sure that we're able to receive and transmit emergency information in a helpful and meaningful way during emergencies and disasters and things like that. So make sure you check out that link I just dropped into the chat on the bill. And make sure you check in to see what you can do to let your folks in Congress know that you support this bill, and making sure that HOAs and other covenants cannot restrict or impose limitations on ham radio operators just because they don't like the way that antennas look or whatever, right? I think it's important for us to make sure that we're getting the word out that we're not doing this to be tacky neighbors. We're doing this for a purpose, for a greater good. We heard KLVI there at 5, top of the hour on 560. Now let's go down to 550. See, what do we get?
A cigar for every connoisseur.
Asante came to TurboTax after graduating from culinary school and landing a job in the hottest kitchen in town.
My hands are full all day, every day.
Asante, as your TurboTax expert, will make your moves count, guaranteeing 100% accurate filing and your maximum refund. Sound good?
Yes, expert.
Exchange with TurboTax and make your moves count. See guarantee details at turbotax.com/guarantee. Experts only available with TurboTax Live.
There was KTRS. I'm trying to hear that ABC Radio out of Honduras, that little chime sound. The conditions down to the south aren't super great.
We are supporting Ukraine in this 2 years, during these 2 years. We are strong, we are united, we are resolved, and we will deliver for
Senate plans to organize a higher-level Ukraine peace conference by summer. The Senate delegation headed to
Yeah, I'm not hearing in there. Let me go to 540. Jacob starting to see the Radio Corporation carrier on 539-860 from his locale there in Minnesota starting to come up a bit. That's that one we have over here on the far left on screen. Los 40. Another thing that I do like, I mean, the ABC Radio in Honduras kind of brings this up, but another thing that I do like about these Latin American stations is that a lot of them, not all, but a lot of them have those little unique little things about them that make them stand out for easily identification, or more easily identifying them. Like the little chimes for ABC Radio. RSANA in Colombia has a very unique sound that they play a lot. So a lot of these stations have little unique identifiers, kind of branding that they use, audio branding that makes them easier to kind of stick out and be able to be identified, especially on a crowded frequency. So another reason I like Latin American stations quite a bit. All right, so we kind of looked through there again, kind of what we've been seeing, most of the same stuff. I think Colombia is coming in now on 570. I tend to notice, at least here, that the band on this lower end of the band takes a little bit more time to kind of fill in and kind of build up. To where we start seeing those longer distance signals coming in on 540, 550, 560. It's not going to happen right after sunset. A lot of times it might need some more time to build in. That's typical of a lot of HF bands on the shortwave bands and things like that. The lower you get, the later in the evening it is going to be before those bands really start going, what we call it, going long, right? Medium wave does the same thing a lot of times, especially starting on the higher end of the band and kind of working its way down. So, let's do some more shout outs here. We got another round of shout outs to get to here. And so let's go ahead and get those in. We're starting with our friend Mesa Mike. Not a whole lot of time for DX in this week for Mike. Did get a few new ones there in Fluvanna County, Virginia. Got 850 to be XJC in Birmingham, to be AOB in Millivale, Pennsylvania on 860. Radio Chetumal, XCCTL on 860 as well in Quintana Roo. We heard them earlier. 870 WPWT in Colonial Heights, Tennessee on 870. One of them bad. I really did. KRVN Lexington, Nebraska, and 880. Good job, man. From Virginia, that's a big deal. 880 WRFD in Columbus, Worthington, Ohio. All new logs. For our friend Mesa Mike. Good job, my friend. Carl in Kingsport, Tennessee. 12 new logs. 3 of those on challenge frequencies. Challenge frequency logs include WQRX in Valley Head on 870, WPIP 8, that was in Alabama, it'd be 880 WPIP, 870 Radio Relo, the code ID one, not the wobulator, although they're both Relo. Among the non-challenge logs, to be NZK 680 in Dearborn Heights, Michigan, is the one that stood out with its Middle Eastern music and presumed Arabic talk. Had 6 new logs this week. Till he got his W6 LVP loop up outside, and I can already tell you, he said I better double my new log total once I do that. So I can already tell you the early returns are Carl likes this thing. So good job, my friend. You know I should. Neil Wolfish in Toronto, Ontario says, not very exciting, but camping out on 850 for far too long. Netted me a new Cuban Radio Reloj that I'd never heard or logged before. I don't know if you have a video with mojitos and Cuban sandwiches yet. You know, you bring up a good point. As many times as we have folks here in Cuba, new Cubans, we need to do that. Calle luna, calle sol, calle luna, calle sol. I can put some Fania All-Stars in there on the video. Bill Curry in Ypsilanti, Michigan. Got a couple new ones this week. 850 WQRM in Duluth. Probably the worst or best call sign you can get as a radio station. I don't know. WQRM in Duluth, Minnesota. WYLF in Pinyan, New York, 850. WACB in Taylorsville, North Carolina on 860. Valley Head, Alabama, WQRX 870, another one I really wanted. 880 WMEQ in Menominee, Wisconsin, and 890 KQLX in Lisbon, North Dakota. So we're going to start off with this. Got you the new logs. But don't think I didn't see that, Wisconsin. You know... Cheese, that was a good log. Cheese, that was a Gouda log. You cheddar not forget to mark that next time. David Harden in Warner Robins, Georgia has some new logs as well for us. Bagged 2 new ones on 850 to be RUF in Gainesville, Florida, and WKIX in Raleigh, plus Radio Reloj on 860 from Cuba, all within 10 minutes tonight. So, my friend, we give you Le Chanson. Let's see what else we got here. We've got another one from Walter. Walter checking back in here. Another one. Got a new log. Radio Encyclopedia in Cuba on 5:30 already. Gotta let us know. New one in there from Albany. Good job, man. And one more for tonight, and then we'll read ours, and then we'll call it a night. Our friend Mexico Mike. We got Mesa Mike in Virginia. We got Mexico Mike in, of all places, Mexico. And Mike says 7 new logs, including simultaneous via SDR reception of KICK 1340 and KGMY 1400 in Springfield, Missouri, both over 1,200-mile graveyard catches. Ooh, 1,200 miles on a graveyarder. That's nice. Plus, got his second Alberta station in CHRB in High River. I love that station. I love that station. And thanks to the challenge, got 890 KDXU in St. George, Utah. My friend. Some extra horns of victory in there for the 1,200-mile graveyard catch. All right. So good job all for your shout outs this week. If you have a shout out you didn't get in this week, no worries. We'll be here next week. Keep that shout out form link bookmarked. We use the same one every week. You can submit those as you go along the week. You can save it till Friday. Doesn't matter. Just when you get them, send them in. And we'll read yours out on air. So let's go ahead and do ours, and then we'll wrap up for the week. It was a busy week, believe it or not, for DX Central. Number one, I was taking all of my old logbooks from Brasstown, North Carolina, and digitizing them by typing them into my Google form and putting them into my logbook. So now I have some little cleanup and little analysis to do on that one before I begin my review of the recordings I did in October. But now I'm at least ready to do that, right? So it came in actually under, I think it was about 50 stations less than I thought I actually had. Who knew paper logs weren't accurate? So I was under 700 logs. I thought I was at 720. I was actually about 670 or so. So we'll see how many I can squeeze out on the recordings that I made in Brasstown back in October, but that was a big chunk of the week, was finishing up that project. Then we got in to do some DX. We had a couple of FM stations this week, to both of them Tropo. We had KACU 89.5 in Abilene, Texas showed up, and KKPT The Point 94.1 out of Little Rock, Arkansas showed up yesterday morning at about 1:27 in the morning on 94.1. So we'll give ourselves there we go. Little FM. Come on, man. Get that change. All right, there we go. Let's go pull up the logbook now. And on the AM side, the medium wave side, a couple of new ones. I'm now halfway. I had an original goal of hearing 150 new stations in the DX season. That was, I start mine September 1st. It runs through August 31st. So I wanted 150 new stations in that span of time. Last year, the entire DX season had 169. I figured this season it might be a little harder. for me to get more, right? So I said, I'll cut it back this year to 150 and see if I can do it. Because I had more logs in the logbook. When you get more in the logbook, it's harder to get new ones. Well, I got the 150 done last month. And I said, okay, well, my new log is to add 48 more to that and get to 900. Well, I'm halfway there. I'm halfway to the 900. I'm now at, I've added 24 new stations since last month when I finished that goal of mine out. So what did I hear this week? Well, we heard a couple things. Let me start here. We heard mostly stations out of Mexico. Did a lot of Mexican DX this week. 730 XEHB in Rancho Primero. That is in Chihuahua, Mexico. Heard them on the 20th. We also heard XECPAF, mentioned them earlier. That was for a new Mexican state. I don't want to say it, Mike, and butcher it. I know it's the one you live in, so I'm not going to do it, man. I don't know the correct pronunciation on that one. Guitaro, I think. Guitaro, I don't know. So XECPAF, PAF, got them in the logbook. XECTL, I had them in Charleston, didn't have them here in Mandeville, so Chetumal made it in the logbook this week for the first time here in Mandeville. WSON, Henderson, Kentucky, also in there, a brand new one for me this week, also on 860. Also on 860, XENL in Monterrey, Nuevo Leon. That came in this morning. And then going back in, I'm looking for Arizona on 1550 and 1580. I'm doing some searching for them because I want to get some more Arizona stations in the logbook, but didn't get them yet. But I did hear a new one on 1550 out of Navasota, Texas, College Station area, KWBC on 1550. That was, I think, the 123rd Texas station that I've heard. So some new logs. And 2 new estados de Mexicano. Querétaro. There we go. All right, man. There we go. So that's the week that we had here. So some new ones, and we're almost completing up with our goal to get to 900. If I get to that one, and we've still got a lot of time left in the DX season, I may add another 50 to that. Who knows? We'll see. I'm already starting to kind of contemplate my goals for next season. Can you believe it? But don't think that we're done with this AM season. We got a lot left to get to before we even wrap up this season of the challenge and DX Central Live. We've still got, we're about halfway. We're about halfway through this season of DX Central Live. So a lot of DX still to get to. So my friends, that'll do it for tonight. 530 to 570. Those are your new frequencies. Go forth, DX, get the good stuff. There's some solar activity going on. Maybe that's going to help us get this Latin American DX in there. Let's hope. In the meantime, we'll see you next Friday right here, same place, same time, 6:45 Central on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and X/Twitter for DX Central Live. You can also check us out directly on DXCentralLive.com. Take care, my friends. 73 Best of DX, and have a great rest of your evening.
This is DX Central Live. This is DX Central Live.